Hey guys, Mr. Antoon here. Hope you're doing well. Today we're finishing up Unit 7, or starting to finish up Unit 7, with Chapter 10 on interest groups. Remember, this is AP College Board Unit 4, just to give you the heads up. All right, here we go. So, interest groups. There are 5 sections here. It's a shorter one. I don't know if we're going to cover 2 videos or not, depending on the content itself. So, let's compare 6, 8, and 10. So, Chapter 6 was on ideology for the most part. Participation, kind of your ideology. So system of ideals that forms the basis of your economic, your political theory or policy, your liberal, moderate, or conservative. Chapter 8, in turn, was political parties that seek to control the government apparatus by gaining office in a duly constituted election. Democrats, independents, and Republicans would be the ones that we're looking at there. Now we're on Chapter 10, interest groups. Oh, by the way, conservatives is the top ideology for our country. We're a conservative nation, but it doesn't translate to political party. We are independents for the most part. We already went over those statistics. In terms of interest groups, this is an organization of people who have shared goals that enter the policy process at several points to achieve these goals. So they have an interest like, the AARP, American Association of Retired People, where they're taking care of anybody who's retired and the interest for them. So they're fighting and helping out political parties with politicians to try to get policy passed to benefit anybody who's retired. So again, let's look at some other more details between these two. Political parties is on the right here. They nominate candidates. They don't nominate. They're chiefly concerned with influencing policy. They're concerned with winning elections and then getting their policy passed. They attempt to influence policy only affecting their members. They have a broad range of concerns to deal with, not just AARP or the NRA. It's all of them together. Interest groups are called policy specialists, and political parties are policy generalists. Specialists dealing with one or a narrow topic, and parties would be general. They're dealing with everything for the most part. So remember the policymaking system chart that we have here. So you can see again the idea. We're talking about linkage institutions. We're right here. Parties, elections, interest groups. You can see we're on Chapter 10 here. So it's when we complain to them, they in turn are the megaphone to the policymakers. The policymakers change policy if it's loud enough, or if they do, and then it affects us on the other end. So again, interest groups pursue those policy goals. Guys, there's 25,000 plus. It's probably ebbs and flows. You don't have to know that number, but just know there's a lot. Technology aids in lobbying. So lobbyists work for interest groups to try to get their agenda passed. And technology today, social media, so much stuff, and helps them out. And remember, interest groups are protected by the First Amendment's implied right to associate. Interest groups or linkage institutions, as you see there, they provide information to the policymakers. So a lobbyist will educate the politicians, they'll educate the media. They run issue ads, which we're going to talk about today. That's part of what our campaign project is going to be. And they raise awareness over what they want to get passed. And again, boom, people have interests to all these things. So these people are the linkage institutions that link us to the policymakers, and the policymakers come and impact, and it comes back to impact us, the people. Okay. The most powerful interest groups from 2001 to 2014, there are the 5, or at least the highlighted ones here on this list. As you can see here, the number of people, and you can see if they're in bold, NORAL is, where are they? They should be on the list, because bolded ones, I think no, it's not bold. Bold is new. So you can see I'm not going to, and this is not like dramatic, but I'm just trying to do this in terms of NRA, number 1, most powerful, even though it's one of the smallest. Chamber of Commerce is for business. AMA, doctors. Retired people is one of the largest. The National Organization of Women, one of the largest as well. Okay. You can see the characteristics of it. There's the AARP, founded here, 40 million. So this number of 37 is off. Again, because these numbers are 2012 numbers, so it's a little off. Doesn't matter. There's still a lot. And you can see fundraising election cycle, how much they fundraise during that time. Percentage involved in an interest group. You can see the more money you make as an individual, the more you're involved in an interest group, because you want that to affect, well, not really affect, but you want that to be able to influence what you're involved with. And there's the benefits you get if you join the AARP, information, insurance, and so on. Again, it's just showing you how we react to this stuff. Would you say the government is pretty much run by a few big interests looking for themselves, or run by benefit for all? You could see through the 60s, few big interests, benefits of all, and then all of a sudden 2001, 2002, under Bush's presidency, it was the benefit of all, and now it's going back to where it was before. Benefit of all was kind of before the Vietnam War. So the Vietnam War really messed everything up. Watergate messed a lot of stuff up. Interest group participation by country. You could see the United States participated in a civic active group, worked together with people to express political views. You could see us as one of the top countries in the world. And this was in 2007, long time ago. It's in your book too, though. All right, so here we go with 10.1. What are some of the theories of interest group politics? You know these. We went over those early in the year. Pluralism, elitism, hyperpluralism. Well, let's look at them very, very quickly. Pluralism is a kind of a positive. It's where it's the group theory where they all provide a link. They all get along. They compete. It's natural. No one's too dominant. They play by the rules. And again, that's kind of how it works. You can see now as part of any of these interest groups that are involved. Some are stronger than others. And all interests are not equal, obviously. It depends on what the country wants and what kind of funding they get to influence that. And this is part of the issue network. The issue network, and I showed you this before, it's a grid of people. Let's say it's about healthcare. It's not just three entities. It's a plethora of entities that involve the public that benefits. It's not like private, hidden from everyone, like an iron triangle is, or it's just the interest group, Congress, and the bureaucracy, and these three work together. Well, now you're adding the presidency or the Congress involved. You're adding a private company like Pfizer, who's now one of the vaccinations for the coronavirus is there as well. But you can see Cigna, private company, private healthcare, AMA, Doctors Association, interest group, FDA, bureaucracy. So you're seeing how it takes this and breaks it apart and makes it more of an issue network. Elitism is the negative in the second theory. And they say real power is held by a few. And a lot of people share this view. It's really kind of that idea of the 1% versus the 99%. But it's the idea that corporations have a lot of power. So when a conservative takes office, what does that conservative want? Well, they want corporations not to have a lot of taxes because they come from business background. That's what Republicans or conservatives usually do. Trump did that with the corporations. He lowered their taxation by 10%, I think it was. Now that Biden's back in, he is going to tax the rich and the elite more often to gain more of the benefits for people who can't afford things, more of the socialist side of things. That's kind of the differences between these two. And then lobbying benefits the few at the expense of many, meaning if I'm a lobbyist for Coca-Cola, I have a lot of resources in order to influence people, not just money, but other things that I can give out as help, as a nicety to get my way for my interest group if I'm a lobbyist. Hyperpluralism, obviously a negative as well. This is the idea that groups get out of control and governments try to appease all of them, but it's when you create gridlock. We have a few people, few interest groups completely dominating the whole thing. That's what hyperpluralism is. It's taking that good idea of pluralism and making it like rigid and restrictive to most of them, and only a few have that more of that power. And that could turn into this idea of an iron triangle, which are known as sub-governments because they exist, even though it's Congress, the bureaucracy, and an interest group, they're really working together for their own benefits. So the interest groups want to worry about, and I have an example for you I'm going to show you. And again, I wanted to show you these side by side in case you wanted to look at the definitions of them and pause the video. So the benefits of an iron triangle is it allows research and expertise. It's beneficial to the public, even though it's kind of restrictive. It helps Congress craft effective legislation because they're working together with an interest group, which is the closest to the people in a sense. And the interest group is kind of a think tank where they serve as a farm, like a minor leagues to future government employees, because if they do really well as in this interest group, they could be working for a politician, influencing at a direct level even more so. The drawbacks of an iron triangle would be it satisfies their own self-interest before the United States. So it's whatever that interest group does for their members, not necessarily for all. And again, often impregnable, you know, iron being the metal, durable, incredibly influential as well. They're less responsive to the public and benefits the private sector more often. For example, the Humvee was created in 1984 as the new military all-purpose vehicle. It replaced the Jeep from World War II-ish times and Vietnam, and that's kind of what the Humvee stands for, if you didn't know, which was kind of cool. But again, they're talking about a new type of multi-purpose vehicle that's armored that will help protect us even more. You can see the armor on the side here. So when you get together here to pass this new vehicle, you have the Department of Defense. This is the bureaucracy. You have defense committees of Congress, and you have a private defense contractor, kind of an interest group. And these three work together here, guys, to try to get this passed. You can see how they work together, how they're, I don't want to say symbiotic, but they're helping each other out to benefit, probably buying this at the lowest cost, but the best product. So they're, you know, in a sense, lowballing it to some degree. All right, so that's kind of the idea of an iron triangle. It can have pros and cons to it, but it's more negative overall, especially compared to an issue network. 10.2 will be what makes an interest group successful. So here we go. You can see the kind of the overview for all of them. Sometimes large group doesn't work. It's smaller groups that are more intense, and it's also how much money they can actually raise. So smaller groups have an advantage because their potential group size of people, potential meaning who could be part of it. So if I'm PETA, an interest group for the ethical people for the ethical treatment of animals, if I'm PETA, how many people own animals? Lots of Americans, lots of people around the world. So the potential group could be huge. In this sense, you could see there's another one for commercial seal slaughter has begun. Help end this. You've heard about that, where they slaughter seals for their furs. So the potential group is the people who can be part of this interest group. The actual group is who actually joins and pays benefits, and the collective good is what's good for all the interest groups. So this idea of a free rider. So let me give you an example. If I own a weapon, a handgun at home, legally, and the NRA wants me to join their group, I pay dues. So now I'm a member. I'm part of the actual group. But let's say I'm not. Let's say I didn't pay any dues and I still own a weapon. Whatever the NRA fights for and spends money on and helps get past or protect our gun rights benefits me. So I'm considered a free rider without having to pay anything. That's a negative concept for the interest groups. So how do they get you involved? They want to give you some type of incentives. Minimum wage is another example of that. You are not part of an interest group for higher wages. If the interest group or people get interest groups come together for better wages, you're going to benefit and you're not paying any dues. You're a free rider, even though you're going to benefit from what they're doing. So selective benefits are offered to overcome this free rider problem. You can't really see this, but it says members will receive a free year subscription to our magazine. The members get a discount. There's vegan recipes to send you. There's member-only updates. There's breaking news. There's mobile text alerts. You're getting benefits from that interest group when you join it. It's just interesting. The intensity is the second factor, and this is where they have a psychological advantage. If you're a small group and you're very intense on one idea, you're going to be effective even more so than bigger, larger ones like the AARP or PETA or NOW. You can see NOW as part of Keep Abortion Legal because it's dealing with all women's rights. This is abortion and pro-choice within one of them. They are very powerful as well. But again, you're seeing they don't really compromise at all. And abortion is one of those issues on it. You can see, again, the NRA donates. This is from 1989 to 2012. They've donated money to mostly Republicans. You can see there is a West Virginia, but again, that person is obviously in a conservative country or conservative state, and you're seeing how they can be impacted by the money given to them. John Dingell in Michigan as well, flips conservative to liberal as well. But again, you're seeing some of these. I don't know if you recognize any name. Pete Sessions no longer there. John Dingell, I don't think he's there anymore. But again, this goes back to 2012. You're just seeing how they influence the political sector. And the NRA is one of the most powerful guys. You can see it again here, the total members. I don't know when I snapped this, but You could see 4.3 annual revenue, 205 million spent by the area during the 2000 election, $10 million. And it's a lot of money in terms of ads. I'm going to show you a couple of those today when we get to it. Financial resources. This obvious system is biased towards the wealthy. In 2008, federal elections cost $5 billion. Total spending by legislative committees outside of special interests and outside special interests in legislative races. Look at the money we're spending, guys. It should not be this way to some extent, but it is, meaning money is influencing our political specter, and it's not really as much the people. So they can influence us in a certain way. Donations lead to access. If I'm like Betsy DeVos, she's our current cabinet secretary for education under Trump. She donated $1 million to Trump, and now she's secretary of education. She's never been a teacher. So donations lead to access. You can have access to influence a sector of our government, but money doesn't always lead to lobbying success. And I'll show you that through some of them. So Open Secrets is what we're going to do our interest group activity through. You can see the cost of elections from 1998 to 2014. It's just increasing more and more and more because we didn't have the 2016 one in here. I should snap that one again. Outside spending, independent expenditures, which is like political action committees. You can see from 2008 increased. Look at how much that is. This is raising for just elections. This communication cost, but look at the amount of political action committees getting involved in this one. It's at 300 million. Top donors from 2000 for up to 2012. You can see these are just interest groups. Even AT&T is part of this sector. They have an interest in the communications industry, and look at who they give to. Act Blue is only Democrat, as whatever whatever this is. You can see how they flipped either side, and this is cool to see. Again, like a group like AT&T gives more to conservatives. So you can, if you know this, you can, and you're a Republican, you're happy. If you're a Democrat, you might not be, and you could change your service. But whatever the case is, it's dangerous for them to show their colors too much because that can affect their business. All right, 10.3, how groups shape policy. So there's 4 basic strategies of interest groups. Lobbying is one, in which it's just communication by an individual on behalf of an interest group to try to influence the government. That's kind of what it is. There's another official one. That's from the textbook. Electioneering is known as a group involvement in the electoral process. You can raise money, campaign, finances, testimony, get members to work for candidates. It's just getting somebody elected. That's kind of what electioneering is. Then there is litigation, where when everything doesn't work, you go to the courts. It's just going to fight it and dispute it in the court system. And last thing is going public using the media, really commercials, and wait till you see those. So there's 2 types of lobbyists, full-time and temporary, and they're obviously part of an interest group. You can see total lobbying spending on these individuals increasing like crazy. Again, number of lobbyists. I wouldn't say it's increasing like crazy, but you can see the numbers peaked about 14.8 thousand, and then the money involved with them as well. There could be some of your parents that are lobbyists. Why do people listen to lobbyists? Because the legislative branch provides, or lobbyists provide specialized expertise to the legislative branch. They help with political campaign. Interest groups can write laws. You can write a law. They could be smarter. They can specialize in one industry to try to affect that one and get that passed in the courts or in Congress, and eventually protected in the courts. So where do the lobbyists exist? You could see they exist in between all the branches. They're influencing mainly the legislative branch, but it can also influence executive agencies, the bureaucracy, and to the courts. They will submit those amicus curiae briefs, friend of the court, especially when it gets to the Supreme Court. Here are the richest lobbyists. This is about 2014, 2015 numbers. Again, you can see Jack Abramoff. You can see some of the stuff, what their background was. This Jack Valente, who had died in 2007, he founded the Motion Picture Association of America, where they gave us ratings, which is interesting because this is a private entity that gives us ratings on movies. And if I'm a director, I would rather have PG-13 than a rated R, because this will get to more people and make more money. So we have to limit it, and they have the control over that as an interest group. Lobbyists can make some good money, guys. Look, here's the Congress salary. You can see here, former member of Congress making more money, more influence, previous government experience, former member of Congress, no government experience. So if you have government experience, you know the ins and outs, you're going to be a good lobbyist. And again, there they are rated in terms of top 10 most lobbied agencies, the House, Senate, Defense Department, and so on. You're just seeing how it changed based on those years. Big spenders on lobbyists, pharmaceuticals. I mean, guys, now with the coronavirus, guys, this is huge. They're going to make a lot of money. Okay. I'm just wanted to show you some of the statistics as you look at it. Number 2 is electioneering. It's just part of the electioneering process. You can see it's number 2. We as people can aid candidates financially. We can get out the vote. We can help them out. We can form a political action committee, which is a group that registers with the Federal Election Commission, which monitors our spending. Here's what we can spend per individual. You could spend $2,700 per election, $5,000 donated to a PAC that supports a candidate, and so on. These are limited. Super PACs are not limited. Okay, that's the next one. 2010 in the Citizens United versus the FEC, super PACs have changed everything. It's now this hidden money, but they can donate. Corporations are known as people now, and they have free speech, so they can donate unlimited amounts of funds to candidates. It's kind of the dark money, the hidden money. They don't have to, but they cannot contribute directly to that. So who spends the money? Well, candidates and PACs, this is how we did it. Limitations. Now, the new players are super PACs. There's no limits. Cannot give directly to a candidate or a PAC. They have to do everything on their own, and I'll show you a video on them. Citizens United changed everything. It's one of the 15 guys. You need to know it. The most important thing that I would try to know from this is that corporations are people. People have the First Amendment right of free speech and can donate money. So now corporations are now considered people, so therefore they have the right to donate unlimited amounts of sums and money to candidates. Who spent the most on their campaign in the 2016 election? Look, Donald Trump only raised $59 million, and he won his ticket and the presidency. She raised $300 million donations and super PACs. She won the nomination. He lost, but he had 98% of his money raised from his own donations, not from any PACs or super PACs. That's pretty impressive. Okay. How corporate PACs have shifted towards the majority party. So super PACs are really trying to keep them in office. So again, with Trump's situation, that you can see it went against Obama here. It was usually the majority party, but it went against Obama. Top single donor PACs in 2014. You can see these things. If you really want to look at this stuff, I'm just trying to show you how much is raised from the largest donor percent and who's getting it. Thomas Steyer was he ran for office. Bloomberg, another famous one, he ran for office recently. So you're seeing some big names in here and big money, guys. I'm not going to go through all these. And you can pause these and see who they're influencing and how much money they're raising. Look, Trump barely raised anything here. Jeb Bush knocked out $130 million. And then there's some of the groups involved. My favorite part here is kind of Simpsons using this. So campaign finance simplified. You have big tech's a private citizen. He can give limit. Here's the politician. He can give hard limits here. Soft limits for the PAC who can contribute directly to them must report these to the FEC. But again, now super PACs come in, no limits, soft money. These are called 527 independent expenditures for a group called Americans for Quimby, who's Mayor Quimby here. And they cannot contribute directly to the candidate. They cannot coordinate with, but they can raise it to help out that candidate, unlimited amounts of money. Number 3 is litigation. When all else fails, you sue for enforcement. Environmental regulations like nuclear power, coal power have done this a lot. This has helped out civil rights groups, and they get involved with amicus curiae in the court system. These are class action lawsuits as well. For example, settlements that you can have here for any of these. If you bought a Taurus handgun, you could get $31 in a class action lawsuit. It's a bunch of groups of individuals coming together. I got an AT&T settlement here for $2.70. Yeah, I did cash it, by the way, and celebrate it. All right, so the last part of this interest group concept is that they go public. So I'm going to show you some ads that are probably going to get flagged by YouTube, but it's the idea that these ads are to scare you into believing your opponent or what's going on is the opposite. So again, very effective. You've seen all these presidential ads that are going on. These are interest group ads. So I'm going to show you a couple of them, or at least parts of them. So this one's the first two are by the NRA. And you can look at it as a positive or negative.
Never fight if you can avoid it. But when you must fight, don't lose. And when nothing less than freedom is at stake, we fight. We're millions of people just like you. We're the longest standing civil rights organization in the U.S. Proud defenders of history's patriots. Protectors of the Second Amendment. Advocating the right to keep and bear arms. Advancing the shooting sports. Championing gun safety, education, and training. Creating a vital legacy by answering freedom's call. And we're growing stronger every day. We are the NRA, and the NRA is you.
So you can see an ad that's really kind of positive in terms of what the NRA is supposed to do. It's not really attacking someone else. So that's kind of the positive side of it. But now let's look at the negative side of things from the NRA as well. So, and interest group.
Are the president's kids more important than yours? Then why is he skeptical about putting armed security in our schools when his kids are protected by armed guards at their school? Mr. Obama demands the wealthy pay their fair share of taxes, but he's just another elitist hypocrite when it comes to a fair share of security. Protection for their kids and gun-free zones for ours.
So again, you're just seeing a different aspect of the NRA just attacking Obama, attacking liberals for their ideas, and saying this is what we should be fighting for. This one's by American Rising PAC or Super PAC. We're not going to watch it. I think this is like a 3-minute one, but I'll show you parts of it.
You know, our Constitution is being shredded. We know about the secret White House email accounts.
As Secretary Clinton unilaterally decided to wipe her server clean and permanently delete all emails from her personal server.
I'm proud of the work we have done to elevate diplomacy and development.
Our allies don't trust us. Our enemies don't fear us.
The death of an American ambassador.
3 members of a U.S. security team on the ground in Benghazi.
What difference at this point does it make?
The Senate Intelligence Committee review found the attack was preventable. The report blamed the State Department for not increasing security in Benghazi.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, they wanted to reset relations with Russia and with...
So I'm not going to play the whole thing. You can see it's like 2 minutes long. This is an attack on Hillary before 2016. It's clipping together videos to scare you into saying that they're piecing it all together, make it sound like she knew what she did wrong. Here's a Lincoln Project, the most recent one that is a conservative interest group. Conservative interest group that attacking Donald Trump because they don't feel he's a conservative. So here we go with this one.
There's mourning in America. Today, more than 60,000 Americans have died from a deadly virus Donald Trump ignored. With the economy in shambles, more than 26 million Americans are out of work, the worst economy in decades. Trump bailed out Wall Street, but not Main Street. This afternoon, millions of Americans will apply for unemployment, and with their savings run out, many are giving up hope. Millions worry that a loved one won't survive COVID-19. There's mourning in America, and under the leadership of Donald Trump, our country is weaker and sicker and poorer. And now, Americans are asking, if we have another 4 years like this, will there even be an America?
So now with modern times, they have to give credit to who it is. It says, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Who paid for this ad? It was the Lincoln Project. So you're seeing that these guys got really famous because they were conservatives against Trump because, again, they don't believe he's a real conservative. So, again, you're just seeing some of the ads, guys. Now, the types of interest groups, the last kind of thing we're going to go over. There are 4 types: economic, environmental, equality, and consumer, and other ones. Economic interest is the biggest one, has to do with labor, unions, money, the economy, obvious stuff. But you could see where unions fight for us in a state like Texas. We're a right-to-work state. We do not have unions for teachers. I'm speaking of teaching. So again, you can see that. But these are groups that will support the right of workers against the employer. If in Texas I striked against my district, I would be fired. I have no right to do that. It's a right to work state. In California, when I worked there, you could see they had dues to pay for California Teachers Association. I paid $82 a month to them. That's how much per month. And I was also paying for the NEA one, the national one. I don't have to do this anymore because I'm not in a union, but they would protect me in case I needed that. And you can see the collective bargaining fight for these interest groups that are fighting for workers. This is in Wisconsin. Economic interest, you can see a bunch. I mean, guys, I already showed you a lot of that. You can see a red and a blue here on who they're supporting. And you can see over here the percent to conservatives, percent to liberals. Again, very polarizing. But again, it's important to see that lobbyists, PACs are part of economic interest. They're the biggest ones. And they pay mostly for incumbents or people who are already in office. In terms of equality, the 14th Amendment guarantees equality. It says that. It's the only place in the Constitution. And with minorities, you had major situations like the NAACP, which is an interest group to help out with minority rights. They helped out Brown v. Board in 1954. They work on social welfare. They help out women with National Organization for Women and trying to get the Equal Rights Amendment being passed. Well, I found a Texas Equity PAC, which talks about is electing pro-equality candidates to state and local offices. Here's the funniest part. When I searched them online, there was no internet for that. Look how old this server is. But again, don't think it actually worked, or they didn't. This is like 2015 because we had eBackpack back then. I thought it was funny. Environment is the next one. These have been big since the first Earth Day in 1970. And again, it's about conserving America's environment. More than 10,000 groups with a lot of money that have a big impact on what happens. And obviously with President Trump, he doesn't really believe in climate change or what's happening because he wants to support all of his corporations that are, in a sense, can do anything they want. He wants them to have the freedom to, if they want to pollute or they want to go clean energy, they have the right to do that. And that's what liberals and Democrats are going to change when Biden takes over. They're going to bring us back into the climate change agreement, Paris Climate Agreement. They're going to bring us back into more holding corporations accountable to pollution to help out the climate. All right, so they had a major impact, these environmental ones, since 1970. You can see there's a Save the Polar Bear, in a sense, interest group, where you could see them trying to fight the Department of the Interior to save them. This is, by the way, a fake photo, not a real photo of it sitting on an iceberg like this. There's no way it would be able to balance, but it was deemed fake on the internet. And then lastly, the big overview for interest groups, guys, understanding them, as you can see, we're looking at democracy and the scope of government. So I don't have any images here for you. So does pluralism prevail? There's a growth in the number of interest groups because they want to lobby their interests to politicians to protect their members of their interest groups. So we would want pluralism to be there all the time and hyperpluralism to be limited. But obviously, if you're a part of the interest group that's in hyperpluralism, you get your way, but it's only for that specific number of people, not for most Americans. You can see, again, less clout for any one group. Obviously, there's a lot that kind of share the power. In terms of corruption, that's why there's a question mark there. Business PACs, political action committees, they're obviously trying to help out their members. The lobbyist is trying to influence Congress to try to get them to pass stuff for business, maybe whether it be tax cuts, like Trump gave tax cuts to most of the rich and the corporations. So you can see, again, how it benefits them. Would that be corruption? Well, again, that's why it's a question mark with it. Wealthy groups do dominate. If you have the money like the NRA did, the NRA is going through issues now, but they had a lot of money and they had a lot of influence. So is there really gridlock? Ebb and flow, whatever, however you look at the situation, there definitely could be. In terms of the scope of government, you see, is it about the individual? Is it about us together as a whole group? When we look at this, is it difficult to reduce spending? Because we've allowed unlimited spending with the Citizens United versus the FEC. We've allowed the PACs. If you're a filthy rich individual, you could influence a lot with just the money, guys. And that vicious circle of attacking and raising money and attacking and raising money to get your way can continue to haunt us as time moves on. And again, I don't know if campaign financing will be changed as we go forward. So you could see new policy prompts new groups to form. The groups do lead the way, but that's kind of it. The scope of government obviously is changed if it's a liberal or conservative president in office, as well as a Congress, because then if it's a conservative interest group and the Senate controls the Republicans control the Senate, therefore they're conservative. They're going to help out that interest group the best that they can, and vice versa, obviously, guys. So that's the big picture of interest groups. We are done for Chapter 10. I will see you on the next one. You guys take care.